episode of Tyler's Room, we got Samson.
How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm good.
So, let's just start with who you are and why you're here today for the people who aren't aware of who you are.
Well, my name is Samson. My pronouns are he, they. I am a trans man. I'm here because I just kind of want to spread more light on certain topics about the trans community and just about my journey and being trans in general. And also, you know, I've known you for some time. It's nice to be on your show.
Yeah, we were in high school together, but I don't think we were ever like good friends or even that.
Nah, we just had like mutual friends. Like I remember like we'd be in WAP and like just walking around like going to the deli and shit, and like we'd just be with mad people. But
I actually do remember having like I saw with you like a bunch of times.
Yeah, yeah. Not my proudest fucking moments, but
yeah,
whatever.
We'll get there.
Right.
So let's start with like your early childhood, and let's start with like what was your given name?
My given name, I'm personally comfortable with saying because I am, but some other people would find that question offensive. Just a disclaimer.
Sorry.
My legal name is Samantha. That's the name I was given by my parents when I was born. Assigned female at birth. And as far as like my childhood, I don't even know where to begin. Do you have like anything specific that you'd like to know?
Well, not anything specific. Like where were you born and stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
Natural upbringing and stuff.
I was born on Long Island. I lived in Queens with my family until I was about 11 years old. My parents were split up at a young age, so my mom basically raised me more. I had visitation with my dad and stuff like that, but I grew up there, and then I moved up here in the 5th grade, and I've been up here ever since, like Poughkeepsie area. Like I grew up in Red Oaks. So yeah, I've been here ever since.
So what was high school like? Because that's pretty much where most of my memories are.
Man, you know how that fucking school is. For me personally, it was like a lot of good and bad because I did have a lot of people that I have a lot of like connections. I have a lot of people that do love me and who I did know. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like popular, but I rode with like a lot of different crews. Like I was that weird black sheep of the crew. Like out on the Ketchum trails, like fucking everything up. But as far as like my high school experience being before I knew that I was trans, I thought that I was lesbian. You know, like when I identified as a woman back then, and I think I was like one of the only ones that were very outward about it. Like you know, like with being like lesbian, like I didn't know many other people that were like, you know, out the way that I was. Excuse me. So like that was definitely intimidating, and a lot of times, you know, the guys in fucking high school, they're ruthless, man. Like I got bullied in middle school, like because, you know, I was a masculine woman at the time, and like, you know, so it just wasn't fun. But then again, in the same breath, I was proud to be who I was, but there was a lot of challenges that came with it. So
yeah, because from what I remember, you never really came off as like, you know, like closeted, as people say.
Yeah.
More like straightforward.
No, everybody knew. Like, I mean, it was kind of obvious too, but everybody knew. I wasn't really. I think the last time I've been closeted was when I was maybe like 12 or 13. I had my first girlfriend like in middle school. You know what I mean? Back then when I was a girl and shit. So, but yeah, it had its ups and downs. I definitely did not like it. I ended up skipping all the time because I just, you know, I didn't know who I was, and like I went through my own personal stuff and stuff like that, and just Ketchum in general. I did not have good experiences as far as like even with the staff and stuff like that. I just couldn't excel there. I ended up getting my GED and stuff like that when I was 18, but high school was definitely not my best suit in life.
Were there any like specific teachers that, you know,
like
at Ketchum?
No, like names or like I can say names on this shit. Yo, there's no specific teachers or anything. Like it was just fucking stressful. You know, I was always in trouble for some shit, even if I wasn't doing some shit, and I did some shit all the time, but. You know, it was stressful. But there's no specific staff members that I could say anything. I know that Mr. Sype fucking sucks. That's all I know. I'll say that. I'm happy with saying that. His stupid ass. But nah.
So you said you thought you were like just lesbian at first?
Yes.
At what age did you realize that like? Well, not that you realized, but at what age was that?
When I was really young, I remember me and my brother, like me and my older brother Alex, we were really tight growing up. Like we kind of just had each other, and my mother. So I would play with him and his boys all the time. Like we would play like baseball on the streets and stuff like that. And I remember one time like I was playing with them and his friend was like, we were chatting and I ended up being like, no, like call me a guy and stuff like that. And like he started laughing. He called my brother over and he was just like, yo, like, oh, tell him what you just told me. And I was like, what? Like, I played it off like I didn't say it because I'm mad embarrassed. Like, you just fucking pressed me in front of my older brother about me wanting to be called that. But at a pretty young age, I knew that some shit was off. Like, I always knew I liked girls, obviously. But I knew that there was something, like, way different. Like, I didn't like the whole girl thing. Like, I liked hanging out with the boys. I liked, basketball shoes, wearing basketball shorts. Like, you couldn't put me in a dress. I wasn't trying to do none of that. Like, so I knew at a pretty young age, and when I knew that I was a lesbian at the time, I was probably at the age of like 13, but it definitely changed since then.
So let's go into like the stigmas behind this particular community and how you feel about them.
There's a lot of stigmas behind this community. The LGBTQ plus community is one of the most vulnerable communities. Not the most, one of the most. And me being trans, I will say, I've heard the most outlandish shit ever. Like, I've heard that people, like this whole bathroom thing, like, you just want to be, you're saying you're trans so you're a pedophile so you could be in the bathroom with kids. And it's like, I mean, maybe if you have something mentally wrong with you and you want to do that, yeah, that could happen in some situation, but nobody is trans because they're a pedophile. Let's see. Even me being a trans man, a lot of the times, like, people will they'll meet me and then they find out that I'm trans and then they start misgendering me after that because they don't see me as a real man anymore.
So that's actually happened?
It happens all the time, yeah. It happens all the fucking time. Even now, like, I haven't updated my ID and stuff like that, like, and that's, like, a big thing for me. And so my ID says my dead name on it and it says F, and, like, I've been harassed places. I got harassed at Max's on Main and Beacon, actually, and I made this post and like a bunch of people shared it, but the dude was like kind of ridiculing my ID, like, because I look the way that I look, and it says my dead name and stuff. So I was trying to get my ID back, and like he's like waving it around and stuff, and like kind of being like, oh, that's weird because that girl over there has that name and blah blah blah. So it's like stuff like that. It's tiring. Like,
does that still happen?
Yes. Yeah. Or people that even I went to high school with and they see me now, they'll be like, calling me she still, and I'm like, bro, like, it's like I can only be so patient until it's like you're disrespecting me. Like, I don't try to take away who you are, and I don't expect that from you either. You know what I mean? And, like, I'm not a dickhead about it, but I will correct you, and if I have to keep correcting you, then it's gonna be a problem.
Is it actually law to change your ID, to update it?
It's different in every state. I will say that. I know in New York State that you do have to go through like some kind of process. A couple of my friends got the name changed, but you do have to pay money for it, and it is a process, and it's just something I haven't personally got around to because I don't know, life happened. This past year has been insane as far as finances, so. But yeah, there is a whole process you have to go to as far as that, and it's really shitty. I think that it should be way more accessible. A lot of things for trans people should be way more accessible that aren't. Like healthcare, there's plenty of like bills, anti-trans laws being passed. Even like as far as playing sports, like you can't even fucking play sports if you're trans. If they think that you're the sex that you were assigned at birth, like even though I am a man. The sex that I was assigned at birth says female, so therefore I would not be able to play in a male sport setting. And I think that's fucking stupid because sports are genderless. The same way that you wouldn't want to get your ass kicked by Ronda Rousey is the same way that I wouldn't. And she's a whole cis woman. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just a stigma. You're transphobic and you don't want trans people playing in sports. That's what it is. It's not about woman, it's not about man.
Well, not to go against what you're saying, but I'm pretty sure there was just a law recently passed that trans could actually join the army now.
Yeah, for a long time, it was banned for trans people to serve in the army. There was a lot of like, obviously controversy about that, like saying it's a mental illness. Like, how could you serve, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, people in the Army they come home with PTSD and depression and anxiety. Having gender dysphoria or being trans is it's just a different kind of that. So there was just a bunch of excuses as to why trans people shouldn't serve in the military. And yeah, recently it did become a thing after Biden came into office that trans people can now serve again. But, you know, it's kind of shitty. Like, these are human beings that are serving your country. Like, you're really, you know, you talk about how much we need people and come fight for our country, and, like, you're just like, yeah, except for you. Like, you know, I think that's shitty. But yeah, I think that everybody is just a human being at the end of the day.
Right. So let's talk more about you actually transitioning from female to male.
Right.
So are you currently taking like any type of like medication or going to like specific therapies or anything like that?
It took me a while. Like, I have been socially transitioned, so like as far as like medical, I am on hormones right now, but I wasn't on hormones for a while. But I was socially, like, you know, I was going by he and him, like maybe around 20. I wasn't out to like many people because I kind of was, it's scary, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be this whole new person to people, even though I'm not to me. Like, it feels good to me. Other people, it was like a shell shock. Like, I got support, I got not support. So it sucked, but I didn't want to go on hormones for a while because of, honestly, my parents and just how people would react to it. But I was like, fuck that. Like, I am unhappy, and I'm just sitting here trying to make other people happy for what? So I finally, I got on hormones. I've been on hormones for 3 years in June, and I do that, and that's it. I mean, you know, as far as my medical transition, it definitely was a big decision for me, and it is a big decision in general, and I think that if anybody's going to choose to do it, they should definitely do their research, because there are a lot of permanent things. There's permanent side effects of being on testosterone, and there's things that will go away, but you should really know what you're putting in your body.
So I was going to ask you, so what are the pros and the cons to that?
Well, the pros are, if you do choose, like, and another thing is, like, you don't need to be on these things to be trans. Like, it's not a competition. Like, you know, people can dress however they want. I paint my nails. Gender is completely fluid. You know what I mean? So, like, the good is that, you know, for me personally, I wanted facial hair. I wanted a deep voice. I wanted, you know, to not get, you know, my Shark Week anymore. I wanted to be, like, you know, have those kind of features for me personally. So that, but, you know, the downfall is, hey, I fucking sweat all the time, and, you know, definitely as far as your mood, if you deal with mental illness and you're putting a hormone into your body, you start messing with your hormones, man. You're gonna see yourself in some rare fucking form. You know what I mean? So, like, you know, as far as testosterone, you know, like, you just get irritable, and just, you want it to be quick. You know, with my transition, you know, you're never, like, done. It's a constant journey, which is great, but there are just things that you want to expedite, and it just is so frustrating that you don't see them. Like, when I was on testosterone for a year, I would see these other dudes, like, on it for 3 months with these lavish beards and stuff, and you just really have to be patient with yourself and stuff like that. But as far as cons, there are medical things that, you know, it can mess with your iron levels. Every time you have to get your blood work done, you have to make sure all your levels are together and shit like that, for your own health, because it can mess you up.
So how important is, like, the mental transition for you?
I started therapy. I'm not currently in therapy right now. I totally applaud therapy. I did have a therapist, and we did work through all of my feelings about being trans. And it definitely is important to take care of your mental health through this, because as exciting and great it is to become who you are, it's not fun. It's not, like, you know, I'm proud, but it's not fucking fun. You know, what you have to deal with, everything that comes along with being trans. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I forgot what the question was.
How important is the mental transition?
Oh, absolutely. I think that with everything, if you're going to do anything, any kind of drastic change in any way to who you are and what you're doing, there's nothing wrong with needing some help with it. And I do recommend trying to at least have somebody, get a counselor, get a therapist, and, like, talk it out. You know, it's not easy to find a good one, but it's definitely good to have that kind of support.
when I asked that question, I actually meant as far as like yourself, like mentally in your body. How do you feel like getting through it? You know.
Oh, I feel really good about it, but I still deal with all those like. It's hard to have dysphoria, you know what I mean? Like especially when like. Even like with dating and shit like that, you know, like I'm like, damn, like, you know, I'm gonna meet this person and then I'm gonna have to tell him I'm trans, and then like, you know, so there's a lot of mental shit that goes on in my head. But as far as my mental transition, it actually helped me a lot with like why. I mean, I still deal with depression, but it definitely helped me like deal with it. I like once the outside fit the inside, things started to light up a little bit and it got better. And I never thought that I would be where I'm at as far as my transition. So, but there are my days where I'm depressed and I'm like, why the fuck was I born in the wrong body? I feel like, and I have to deal with that. You know, it's all about coping. But so far, it's been all right. Yeah.
So let's take a step back and go back into the appropriate pronouns and versus the inappropriate pronouns.
Right. So the appropriate pronouns, I go by he, they. I'm non-binary. I don't think that gender. I think that having gender to things is kind of fucking dumb. I mean, the things that we put gender on nowadays is so fucking stupid. It's just like having a baby, right? You have a baby, and no matter what gender that baby came out, you were gonna love that shit. So, what's the big deal? You feel me? Like, so my pronouns are he, they, and some days, so like with he, you know, some days I wake up, and I'm like, you know, I don't really relate to either, and like that's cool, and I just want to be them, like that kind of thing. And I think that everybody should normalize their pronouns. You should put your pronouns in your bio, because then it normalizes it, because also you don't want to make an ass out of yourself, because I know how embarrassing it is to misgender people. You know, I've done it before, and I'm not saying I've done it purposely. I would never be vicious in that way, but if you just tell somebody your pronouns, you would avoid feeling that, like, fuck, like, I'm an asshole.
And now you're obviously talking for the transgender community, right?
For everybody.
For everybody.
Even you, even them, you know, whoever. I think that everybody should do it because it normalizes it. It does. Like, and then, like, someone like me shouldn't have to feel weird about being like, hi, I go by he, they. And then they're like, oh, well, you know, that dude's trans, obviously. But if you were like, hey, I'm Tyler, I go by he, him, you know, and everybody's doing it, you're like, oh, okay, word. Like, we're trying to figure out who we all are. Like, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I have a lot of cisgender friends who do that. They have she, her, or he, him in their bios and stuff like that. And it's just, I think that it's productive. I guess all I can say that is towards my trans community and everybody, my whole LGBTQ plus community, is that you're not alone and it will get better. And it does get better. And I still deal with a lot of shit, but you're not a fucking alien for being trans, and you should be accepted everywhere you go and comfortable and safe. We need to protect our trans kids. We need to protect our trans black women. We need to protect black people in general, but that's a whole nother topic. And yeah, just much love.